Welcome to the Life of Hair. My name's James Atkinson. Thank you for choosing to join into this week's episode. Now, this week's episode is one of those actually highly requested videos. In fact, it was requested in my most recent live that I did. So thank you for the questions, guys. I really enjoy answering those questions and giving you great solutions to the problems that you have in the salon. Now, from the description, you probably know what this video is already about, so I won't talk too much about it into this intro, but I'd just like to say an enormous thank you to my Patreons. And if you would love to become a Patreon and get more in-depth Life of Hair education, then please do go down to the description down below, click the link to my Patreon, and you can join up. The all access Patreon for $10 a month is what I recommend, where you get 2 lives per month, 1 practical and 1 theoretical live, and you can get that direct access to answer those questions about your hair dilemmas, which I would love to help you with. So until next time, guys, do look after yourself, and I'll see you again in the next one. Okay, so our starting point is a natural level 6. Well, it's close to a 5. If I didn't offer the chart up, but trust me, it's very difficult sometimes to get the cameras to be a true representation of what we're dealing with. But there's a small percentage of white hairs in here, roughly 15%, maybe 10% white hair, so not many. And the emphasis is grey hair blending and then creating some dimension through the root area down towards the ends, just to create a soft lived in balayage effect. Now, this is the second time I've done this lady's hair, and the first time I did it a little bit softer, and we used a slightly different technique, but this time we want a little bit more emphasis on the lighter pieces. So in terms of technique, I'm going to go a little bit heavier, and to do that, here I am with one of my favorite tools, a paintbrush. A paintbrush that I bought from a hardware store, and I absolutely love it. In fact, I was using it today, on one of my clients, and it's just a fantastic tool. It creates seamless blending with zero effort. Now, I know we could spend more time with a finer brush, developing our beautiful blending techniques, but if we can get it done nice and quick, then why don't we just get it done nice and quick? It's not to say that it's a better job because you've done it with a smaller brush. And I've had other videos where I've used this brush, and I don't bring it out very often in my YouTube videos. I used it for a completely different purpose in my previous video, and in fact I will link that video at the end of this video so you can go and check it out and see how I used it differently. But as you can see, with very little effort indeed, it has created a absolutely beautiful transition between the two more saturated ends and the lighter saturation through the top. Now, when I say more saturated ends, that's something that I really want to talk to you about. This particular technique, we are just surface painting for minimal saturation through the ends, because in this particular instance, we just want to create an effect in the hair. We're looking to create effect, texture, dimension, movement through the use of color. We do not want to start saturating through the ends because it will just take away from the technique. The idea of this is to really create beautiful dimension, movement, simply, easily, and quickly. Because there's obviously 1,001 techniques we can do, but because I've already painted a root onto this color, I want to really ensure that I'm not disturbing that root color, and I don't specifically want to back comb up to it or into it. Then I'll have the option, obviously, of doing the roots first, letting it process, and then coming back to it. But for me, that is just too long-winded. I want to do it all in one go, wherever I can. Now, as we've moved up the hair here, I am now into the crown area. And as you've probably just seen from the section, the camera angle is not perfect, I appreciate. This is a triangle-shaped section that sits over the crown area. And we're just going to paint it in V's, as we have done with every other section. We start by painting the edge of the V, and we work down towards the tips, and we then switch to the other side, and then we saturate the bottom. I specifically do it this way with this paintbrush because it is like a dream to work with. Generally, when I'm painting a balayage, I'll start applying closer towards the ends of the hair and I'll work my way back up towards the roots. But this brush truly is fail safe. Now, if you want to go and buy a brush from your local hardware store, get a brush with reasonably soft bristles, but not too floppy. A medium density, if you will. And it is better than a power painter. I've got loads of power painters from Framar. It just is an absolute breeze to work with. Now you'll see here my section, for some reason, has decided to separate. Don't worry about it, guys. Just go with it. It's one of those things. It's a bit annoying, but that's life. In this particular instance, I'm not painting all the way to the ends anyway, because I'm going to be chopping off a good proportion of the hair once I have finished the job. So I'm not too concerned about painting all the way to the end. In fact, I'm painting way below the point of which I'm going to be cutting the hair to anyway. So in this particular instance, it doesn't matter. But, you know, if you wanted to paint all the way to the ends just for the sake of it, or you're going to leave the ends on, then, you know, obviously make sure that you do that. But don't follow my lead here and do that to every single client. Just know that I'm going to cut off quite a bit of hair when we're done. Hence why I'm taking the colour up quite high as well in most of the sections, because I know that I'm going to chop off a large percentage of the hair, and I still want to have quite a lot of colour visible because we wanted more impact than we had last time. So as you can see, it's just a breeze going through this technique. That very first section on this right hand side is about 2.5 inches from the top of the ear in a diagonal backwards section, and then we've taken another 2.5 inch section diagonally backwards, painting the front hairline all the way through. Don't worry, you will get a glimpse of the finished painted result and where each of these sections lie. I know the camera angle in this time isn't right. I don't know where it was aiming. Anyway, out the floor by the looks of it. But you see, that's life. We're doing it on the hoof, guys. So, please forgive me. But in this technique, we are taking large sections. We are going to get through the back in 4 sections on each quadrant. We're going to get through the side in 3 sections. This is the top section, for instance, and we're going to paint one point of light that travels all the way down the middle of this top section. It's a diagonal backwards still. It's a triangular section, and we're just going to hold the hair in natural fall and paint a line straight down and fan that line out. You can actually see where it fans out, and we're going to blend it down to the bottom. Now at this point in time, you can see me using some upstroke techniques. That's a nice way of creating extra softness throughout the technique, and one that with a big heavy brush like this, and it's the weight of this brush that really kind of does the work for you, creates a lot of the blending for you without you putting in a tremendous amount of effort. So here we have the finished painting technique, and you can see the saturation's not extremely heavy. It's pretty heavy, but it's not like completely saturated to death. And that is a very deliberate thing in this particular instance, because saturation aids the lift, as I'm sure a lot of you will know by now. But I don't need an awful lot of lift from this. I want to create a color that's maybe 2.5 shades lighter than the base color, just to create some tonality. I've done very large sections of color, and therefore I don't want to kind of create very blocky results with this particular technique. So reducing the saturation is very important. So I'm going to show you now, before I curl this, there's 2 things different between now and the finished result. One is the lighting. The lighting where I am is very warm, so it looks kind of golden, but it's actually a mocha shade, and when I have the hair straight, it looks a lot less coloured than when I do it wavy. So look, it's really important to know that in different lights things look different. This looks really gold, but in reality, under a better light, as you can see it right now, you can really start to see the tonality of that kind of mocha copper result, which I think is a stunning colour. I am absolutely loving copper mocha shades, and just really like how rich and healthy they make the hair look. But with a bit of wave in there, it really brings out the definition of the balayage technique, and with a better light you can see a better representation of the colour. You can see around the front where I painted closer to the front hairline to create a sort of gentle money piece style technique around the face. But the way that I painted this technique and the way that it's come out right now, they are look like they're worlds apart. You would have thought this was going to be a really, really blonde, heavy technique with loads and loads of blonde in it. But because we were just surface painting, because we were using low saturation, it's come out much, much softer. So I hope this will help you in the future decide what's best to do for you, whether you need to paint your roots first, balayage first, do your roots after. One great option is to do your balayage, wash your balayage off, and then dependent on how much grey hair coverage you need, do your roots, then tone the hair simultaneously. Permanent colour on the roots, and then straight into your toner on the ends. But obviously, I don't recommend covering white hair on to damp hair because the manufacturer doesn't recommend it. But I have been running some experiments from a video someone shared with me recently, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on covering white hair that is already damp at some point in the future when I've got some more comprehensive information that I can share with you. So until then, and until next time, look after yourselves. Don't forget to join me and Paul Watts on Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. BST. This week's video will be on my channel. We alternate channels between mine and Paul's channels each and every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. every single Wednesday. We talk all things hair. We do hair cutting and colouring demonstrations. So we'd love for you to join us, and we'll see you then. Cheers.